Yo, 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 welcome to another edition of the Geeky Bros Podcast. It's your dude, Darcy, out here.
And this is Big Geek who... Ooh, I fucked up.
At your name of all things.
I know. This is Big Geek Umar. How you all doing today?
I was waiting for you to mess up that a second time. I felt it was in there.
It was going to happen. But I was able to pull it together.
Yeah. So, how are you doing today, Umar? You in good spirits?
I'm in good spirits. We're still missing our bro Tactix. We're hoping that he's still kicking ass at school, but the show must go on. So Darcy and I are going to keep you all company with some about some reactions to the trailer and also some discussions. But whoa.
Yeah, sorry, it jumped up ahead on me. It got away from me. Tax is not here. I was trying to prepare in advance in the background, but the thing is just like, no, I'll just throw it up on the screen.
Well, this is a good moment for us to for everyone to realize just how important Tactics is to the success of the Geeky Bros. So I give you all the hats for being able to fill in all the stuff he's doing. I do not know what he does, and I do not know how to do it. So the fact that you're killing it, bro. But just a piece of housekeeping for all new people to the podcast. If you're watching the podcast after we've gone live, please check the description for the timestamps for the discussion point that you want to see. Or you could just sit back and listen to the whole podcast. So we are going to start off with our first topic of today, which is the Fast 10 trailer that dropped a couple hours ago, actually. This franchise.
I already love how you're struggling here.
Yeah, we are on our 10th film of the Fast and Furious franchise, and the trailer for the 10th film dropped earlier today, as I said. And from me personally, I should also make you all aware that I haven't watched the 9th film.
Same.
I don't have any particular reason to watch the 9th film, and I don't ever plan to, which you could probably tell after watching this trailer. I don't plan on watching the 10th film either, because it looks cheap. I just said that. The Fast and Furious movie looks cheap. It looks it was on its last legs a while ago. We're now exhuming the body and trying to pull off some Naruto pulling the cells of the first Hokage to imbue Madara, but Madara grew a face out of his chest and is this shit's fucked up.
You just went down an anime rabbit hole for some people who might not know what the hell that meant. That was complicated. You're doing reanimation jutsus and people are like, what?
Well, this is the Geeky Bros podcast, but nonetheless, let's just say that the reference I made is basically taking a dead body, extracting cells, infusing yourself with those cells in the hope of gaining power, and instead mutilating your body while also gaining power. So that's what this trailer feels like for me.
Yeah, basically Asian Frankenstein. That's what you're saying.
Kind of. Yeah. So that is my description. Darcy, I've been told that you have thoughts about this trailer, so I'm going to sit down and shut up and let you speak. So preach, brother. Speak your truth.
I have many thoughts. First off, when you said you hadn't watched the 9th film, I said same, and then I realized 2 seconds after, I have seen the 9th film. I just tried to forget that I saw it. That's how bad the film is. I'm over here I haven't seen it. The glove don't fit. Come on, you're just trying to deny it. Okay.
And then you're like, oh shit, I have seen it.
I'm like, wait, I have, because I'm gonna give a lot of opinions, and they're all based off of coming off of the last film. So wait, that doesn't check out. Okay, so first off, let me just say, you know how we review movies and stuff like that. I'm gonna give this trailer a 5.5 out of 10. Okay, I'm just gonna give it a rating.
You're being kind.
5 out of 10. I don't know. I don't know why I'm even giving it a 5. I don't even know. I just don't like it. So let me jump into what I don't like here. Okay. So I put together a couple slides here just to show them. Okay. So first off, is this his mom? Where did she come from? I don't remember her ever showing up in any film. And the man's like speaking Spanish in every film, even though I thought he was Italian in the first film. And so he's speaking like Spanish or some level of like Latin American like language, Portuguese, Spanish. I don't know. But his mom looks about as white as they come. Yet I don't know what her accent is in this trailer.
Honestly, he keeps like finding more family members to add to his family. Like John Cena was his like brother in the last movie, wasn't he?
Like, yeah, like I mean, I guess that tracks for the mother. Like, but I just look at this family and I'm just like how am I supposed to believe that's his mom? Like, she looks like she's related to Elvis, okay? Like, I'm just really confused about the family. Speaking of which, why is his son get a race swap? Like, how did his son become, like, half black? Like, look at this kid.
Isn't his mom, like, Spanish?
Yeah, like, weren't they in Brazil or Colombia during the film? Like, it wasn't... Yeah, like, she was whiter than Dom. And
she was Spanish, so like yeah, I don't know where the black is coming from in this situation.
Yeah, but like she was like on screen slightly lighter skinned than he was. So right. I'm just saying, like, you don't put these two together and end up with this child. Like, it just what? You're just like, this is just like, you know, all the stuff where like, you know, we've been having problems with Disney, just like race swapping characters without real reason. You're just gonna race swap your child between films, like. We've already established his... I just can't. It just doesn't make any sense, okay? Moving on to my third point.
We're at 3 right now.
Jason Momoa, like, don't wrong. How did I put this? How is it that since The Rock left this franchise, the guest star acting feels like it's consistently going downhill? Now, in the last film, we had talked about... Well, I'm like, John Cena can do better. And people are like, nah, he's just not doing a good acting job. I'm like, no, I think it's the film. We all know Jason Momoa can act, okay?
Yeah.
And every bit of this trailer, I was like, I do not believe a single moment of any of his character at all. It just feels literally like, hey, we liked you in Justice League. Can you just do that? Like, and throw you in as a villain. It just, and like when I saw this, it's just like, oh, so he was in the bank? I don't remember him standing there when the safe got pulled out. And he was like standing like 2 feet away in this trailer. Like you're just gonna throw a dude in that clearly wasn't there, and now just build this big plot. Like, it makes sense to like tie it back to that event, but the shoehorning of like him into those old scenes that he wasn't in, like, no.
I mean, the amount of retconning they've been doing in this series, I'm not surprised that they decided to go this way.
Also, quick question. Why does he look like tanned white Jesus in half of this trailer? Like, like literally the man looks like tanned white Jesus, okay? Like, he's got his arms
modern day tanned white Jesus.
Like, I'm so confused. Like, what character is he? Like, and also there's like a scene of him at the end, like, oh, he's gonna race Dom. I'm like, so this guy has been ruined for like millions of dollars. He's gonna go ruin everyone's life. He's gonna ruin the family, and it looks like they're just gonna end it on a race. Like, bring it back to the good old days. I'm like, now that's not believable anymore. You've escalated this to a point where that's not how you solve things anymore. So
in the same trailer, he took down like 2 helicopters with a car, and you're just like, okay.
I just like, when I see the race scene, it looks corny, which is hilarious because the whole franchise is based on race scenes. So it just, like, how did they got into this point? Okay. Next thing, she fits perfectly in this movie.
My God, the both of you hating on Brie Larson is hysterical at this point. Like, y'all just hate. Look,
yo, Tactix, when you see this clip here, just put in the comments that you agree with me that she fits perfectly in this film. And ironically, she's taking a pick out of The Rock's book. Just be yourself. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. Y'all can read between the lines. Oh yeah. Oh, I jumped ahead. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to have more things to talk about. Let's see. Do I have anything else on my list? Yeah. The only other thing I gotta say is this whole thing feels like they're paying homage to themselves, but the problem with that is that it feels like they're just recycling old ideas because they don't have new ones.
They've been recycling old ideas for a while now. It's not just this film, but this one is just this one is just like, it is so done that like they can't even, like, the trailers are not even enjoyable now.
Yeah, it's like all the homages I'm seeing in here should feel better than they do, but
yeah,
they just don't. They just don't land. They don't. And this franchise, literally, we all said it, should have moved on with Paul Walker's death.
Agreed. If they had ended it there, that would have been a really good franchise.
8 was not strong. 9 was worse, and this doesn't feel like they're just gonna crash and burn. Like, you had a perfect send off. You handled an unfathomable situation in a way that the world systematically got together and clapped and cried over a song for like 2 months when it came on the radio. Yep. And then you go be like, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna move on. Like, no. We all collectively and emotionally agreed that was the end. That was that was like when Tactix says, if it ended with Endgame, I would be fine. That was the Endgame moment.
No, agreed. Oh my god.
So yeah, this trailer, I'm not really feeling it. Like, the only thing in this whole trailer that I couldn't really get a good clip of because you need visual, like, movement for it, was John Cena's fight when he was like throwing a dude to the floor. I'm like, I almost just want to watch his scenes and then just leave the theater. I'm obviously a John Cena fanboy, hardcore.
But he proved the thing is, he proved he there, but like predominantly it was done well, which also proved that it wasn't John Cena's fault for Fast 9.
Yep.
So yeah. Oh my god, T.
Thank you.
So Tactix is taking a break from studying to say Bree belongs in the trash along with Jason's acting and this bullshit trailer.
Yep.
Bro, we miss you, man. I can literally hear him be like, yo, this is some trash. This is some trash. But yeah,
the one saving. Sorry, my bad.
No. Go on.
I was gonna say my one saving grace for Momoa in this whole thing is that I know that man got the bag, and that's all he get. He showed up to work. He did what needed to be done. It was probably 3 hours late every day because of Dom, and that's just how it went. He probably just sat around drinking tequila, waiting for Vin to show up on set, and phoned it in at every moment, because what else would you do?
Honestly, I kind of hope that he just made friends on this thing and like didn't care about the actual film, like because I'm not gonna lie, Michelle Rodriguez's character, don't see the point of her being in it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say either way. Other than the fact, well, she's his partner and she can fight.
Guess.
So like she has as much purpose as Dom's sister, Paul's wife, right? In it, but she could fight. So I mean, so did Paul's wife a little bit.
The sister's in the movie?
No, I don't think she's in the movie. But I just meant when she was in it. It's like, as long as Paul's here, she's here, right? As long as Dom's here, she's here. Like, and it's all about family, so that just keeps the cast going.
Oh my god! Honestly, this trailer alone, the amount of times they said the word family, I was like, guys, we know we made memes about it. We know we've been making jokes about it, but you don't need to lean into it that hard. Yeah, like, dude, you've killed your own joke in a bad way.
I saw a good TikTok while I was just like flipping around today and about this, and some dude, he like he watched the first Fast and Furious, but he hadn't watched like the rest of them, and then he watched 8 for some reason. Like, I don't know, his friends probably like put him onto it, and he's just like, this is his description. He's like, so in the first film, Ludacris is like, you know, running a chop shop, or like, no, running a garage, and then doing like races on the side as his side hustle, and that's how he makes money. In the 8th film, he's like, I'm hacking into the Pentagon. Like, how did we make this leap? Like, it just, like, that is fair. Because at one point we just accepted, like, I think it was a second or third film, they showed up and he was just like doing computer stuff on cars. So you definitely didn't get to see that little like he got introduced to technology scene. But yeah, it was a big jump.
Yeah, so nonetheless, it's very clear that the Geeky Bros are not a fan of the Fast and Furious 10 or its trailer. So we just gonna moving on. So our next and main topic of today's podcast has to do with a discussion regarding the third act problem. So Tactix is throwing in another saying, I saw the topic and had to jump into the chat real quick. Paul Walker up in heaven with his Will Smith pimp hand, waiting for Vin to.
Oh wow, that's Ooh, that is a rough one right there. I mean, I feel like there has to be something about that pimp hand and directing Vin down the right lane, which is clearly they went down the wrong lane. You know when that moment, the last of the 7, where they split and then Paul went his way. It's like a third lane that Vin was supposed to drive down, but he drove down the wrong road. And now we have more films. So yeah.
Anyway, so moving on to our main topic. So for let's focus predominantly on superhero or sci-fi fantasy films. Now, these films, not always, but have recently been developing a trend or a trope that we would like to call the third act problem. This problem is the movie's going well. We're assuming these are the situations where we're enjoying the movie, things are going well, it's progressing, and then in the third act they just kind of shoehorn in a fight sequence because they're movie makers and they think that's what needs to happen.
Powers.
Oh God, yeah. So this has become a legitimate issue, I would say, for us who enjoy review and want like a really good superhero or action film superhero, sci-fi or fantasy film. We have some examples that we're going to discuss. There are some, I would say, prime examples, and granted, if there's certain movies that are just shit, fine, they're shit. So like the third act is not like going to save them, but there are other movies that are kind of going on a certain path, whether it is a well-executed commentary, or if it's like really well character development and character arcs and like all that sort of stuff. And all of a sudden in the last act, it's like, okay, big battle sequence now. And it's like, why? And let's be honest, superhero films are kind of known for that the most. MCU being the biggest one. Mostly because they put out the most content. Like DC, they have a whole other set of problems.
They have a first, second, and third act problem. It's not just the third act half the time. I mean, Wonder Woman 84 is a prime example.
Yes, exactly. Like the first scene was kind of like the best one, and then it went progressively worse downhill. But
Mortal Kombat.
Good God, geez,
you said first scene, last battle. Everything in the middle, shit sandwich.
Yes. So we're going to be focusing on films that we were thoroughly enjoying, or TV series even. Like superhero TV series are also getting on that bandwagon. So we're going to be discussing movies and TV shows where we have been thoroughly enjoying the process, the first, second, and third act, the most of the series, and then we have a final act, or in the case of TV series, a season finale problem. So the first one, we're going to start with TV, which I think is the modern day prime example of when the third act goes downhill. and that is about WandaVision. Now, for those of you who know, I have been completely in love with WandaVision from the first episode to the second last episode. I have loved WandaVision. I would say it's my second favorite MCU TV series after Ms. Marvel. I think it's really well done, and I like the acting, the storyline, the dialogue. There's some dialogue points in this show that are top notch. So why is this on the list? Well, I was really, and I mean really fucking enjoying the series. And then the last episode happened, and it wasn't a bad episode, I should say. But let's just say that while the show kind of started off at like a 7, bumped up to about an 8, got to about a 9-10 point, and then dropped back down to a 6.
Yep.
The reason why was because they decided to have a big budgeted superhero battle in the final episode, which in a way kind of came out of nowhere. Like, it wasn't really leading to a final conflict between two big forces. It was more like, yo, someone's going through grief. She's fucking up a town and she kind of needs to be stopped. But at the same time, you feel for her and you also want some of these other things to be resolved. Also, who the fuck is Agatha?
Yeah. I also feel like, just looking at the scene now in hindsight, I feel like they had to do this because of the movie they were going to make.
Well, fine. Absolutely fine.
I'm not saying I agree with it. It's not what I would want, but it feels like, well, we need to explain how strong she is before we have her in Doctor
Strange.
Yeah. I keep on
Multiverse of Madness.
I want to say the Pursuit of Madness, like the Pursuit of Happiness. my brain was messed up there. But yeah, like we need to explain it before we throw her into that film, and then also not do a good job.
No, but like actually, that's a good point because that kind of ties in to what I believe are the two main problems. One, studios believe that for this sort of property, you kind of need to go like big at the end. And second is, again, studio related, it's like, oh, we need to set up a whole bunch of things, so let's just do that in the final act. And this goes in directly what you were saying. This was meant to kind of be like, okay, so when we watch Doctor Strange, we'll be like, oh, yo, Wanda's a problem. But, well, that had a whole other problem to deal with. So, like, we'll not, like, that was more of kind of a film problem as opposed to, like, just the third act for that one. In fact, I would say, like, that film was consistent in its issue, and the third act didn't really make it worse.
Yeah.
But anyway, so going back to WandaVision. Actually, hold up. Before I go any further, Darcy, what do you think? Like, what were your thoughts on WandaVision overall?
Like, so the one thing that bugs me about this is that the best part of this whole episode wasn't Wanda, but it was Vision.
Thank you.
Yeah, because the thing, so Vision, super powerful. Fighting Vision, equally super powerful, right? So where do you take that? And they brought it to this intellectual conversation. Yes. And it was the thing that everybody remembers about that. There's like two things people remember about this episode. Vision and her grieving at the end, right?
Yeah.
We remember the big ball of powers, but we didn't care about it, right?
No.
And so this, it was like, you know, one of the two most impactful things. And I wanted more of this. I wanted more of, what does this all mean? Not Expelliarmus. I've been watching a lot of the Harry Potter controversy, or not Harry Potter, but Hogwarts.
The game.
Yeah, so that was the top of my mind. So, for me, the overall thing was like, once we got to this point, once we got to like seeing the town, it started to feel cheap. It felt rushed. It felt like I needed like a whole other episode to deal with, or like an episode leading up to the finale to deal with what the hell she's just been doing to all these people. Like, once we got to the point where they're like all coming out of the spell, it was just kind of like, oh, they're coming to spell. Oh, they're mad, and it's like, okay, and moving on to the big fight, and you're like, we just spent this entire show her tormenting people. We finally reveal it, and we gotta hurry up to the next thing. I'm like, but that's the whole show. That's the whole thing. The whole thing is grief. And yes, we do get a great moment at the end about grief, but what about everybody else's grief? Why are we just skipping past everybody else's grief so quickly?
And it's not like what little we showed was badly done. No, like when the town peoples confront her, like it was rushed, like you said, but like even the rushed aspect was good. And it's like, wait, well, we don't need to go back to the fight because that's what I want. They're all telling her, you're torturing us. And she's like, no, but you guys are happy. I made you guys happy. It's like, we have your nightmares. And like this girl is literally like, hey, can I just have my daughter back? I'm like, we could do it whatever you want. I just need to hold my daughter again. And she's like, wait, no, that's not what I was doing. Like that shouldn't have been a 30-second scene. That should have been a full scene. Like give us 10 minutes of like 5 minutes of that, for crying out loud. Give us 3 minutes of that. It's just like that's what we were hoping for. The whole thing with Agatha, fine, like have like a smaller scale fight scene. Like give it, like it doesn't need to be up in the air. It doesn't need to be like all that sort of stuff. Like just like do something. Like you said, I want like the conversation between Vision and White Vision was awesome. And okay, don't get me wrong, I liked seeing the fact that like Wanda's going full blast and you get to see her full power, but we already knew how powerful she was. And also I did like seeing that Vision was the one like staying behind and take care of the kids. But like, you know, he you know, that still could have been done when she's like arguing with Agatha. And like it could have shown it as more as like magic being used on a power level, but also on a smart level. Like, yes, like she was able to trick Agatha and blah, 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 blah. But like, you didn't need like 5-10 minutes of like fighting in the air. So it just was like a lot of lost opportunities. And kind of like you said, like the things that we loved most about the series had to be the small moments. Like the whole, what is grief line that was set up for like 4 minutes and then stood with it for another 2 minutes for a 5-minute long interaction that was perfect. Now, like you said, the discussion with Vision at the end when she's like saying goodbye and letting go of her grief, really well done. That's kind of how I wanted the whole episode.
Yeah, like for me, like what I would really love to have seen in this episode was instead of the big moment being, you know, she turns into, you know, power, Scarlet Witch, blah blah blah, the big visual of it. I wanted more of the feeling of everybody coming in at her, building harder and harder. And I don't remember everything in the last episode because frankly I didn't like it that much, so I kind of maybe shut off a couple memories.
It was a big drop.
Is that I wanted it to lead up to a big emotional outburst. And yeah, you could have powers coming out of her because a powerful individual who is out of emotional control could have some form of also manifesting a power that hits and hurts people, right, in that moment. But I wanted to lead more all the way up to the remorse, the big outburst, maybe some consequence, related, she has to fight something off in that moment, but not a big deal fight. I just really wanted more to lead to her just the climatic moment. It's like this whole thing is with this powerful character, because I like the subversion of like, you have the most powerful character, but the solution at the end isn't always to use their power. If it is Superman versus Darkseid, of course it's going to be a battle. It's going to be fists. Like, I'm expecting that. I want to see a good battle to the point where it's like, it almost starts to feel like it's just regular old hand-to-hand combat at some point because they're so powerful. But with someone as powerful as this and the story you set up, I don't need to see the power. I want you to set it up and almost make me think it's going to be power, and then it just happens to be the most human moment. the most
Yes.
emotional moment, her finally having to face her grief, kind of like when you have the Eureka moment in your therapy session, right?
Yeah.
But she's having to do it publicly in front of everybody. And what does that mean? What happens when she disperses the pain through the power, and maybe everything starts crumbling down? And maybe it's like when she disperses it, the whole, because now she's seeing it all, the fabric of this fake reality starts to fall apart, and she's like losing vision and her kids in the process of facing the reality, trying to hold on. And it's just like
I love
picking up
that.
sand, just like trying to grab sand and hold it to you, but it's falling through your fingers. I'd rather have this been just like Marvel have taken the biggest chance, and I'm sure this had to do with not having Bob Iger around,
Yeah.
JPEG, trying to push his agenda. But like, I would rather have had just them be like we did have it, but more of it where after this it's like when Pixar teaches the kids something, parents gotta sit
Exactly.
down with their kids and be like, what is grief? Okay, I gotta talk to you about grief now. You've seen this show, I gotta talk to you about grief. And it's just like a really big grief moment. We're all like for years going like, man, that scene was crazy. Not powers, because when she shows
Yeah.
up somewhere else to use her powers, and we know the grief that she dealt with, those powers are going to be impressive in the next movie, right? Not
Yeah.
necessarily Multiverse Madness is what I'm thinking of, but you know what I'm getting at. It's just like there's more weight behind these things when you feel the people, not that you just get to see more instances. Like I know, we got to see her most powerful yet. No, like I know we saw craziness in Infinity War and Endgame, but like we didn't need to see it here. So
Yeah.
what would you
Agreed.
want to have happen, Umar?
Well, kind of like what I was saying, because like the entire series has been about mystery building and character development. That has been the thing, and also references to like films. Oh, sorry, to like sitcoms. So that has been the true strength of this series when they've done intelligent writing about characterizations and having character development, and also showing how things have been. The last episode felt like it was from a different show. What we needed is like what you're saying, and also what I wanted. We wanted the resolutions, but like on a much smaller scale, a more personal scale, and like kind of her going through the like just kind of like going on what you're saying about the therapy session. This was the therapy session where she could no longer keep the fantasy alive. This is about someone living in a fantasy to avoid the trauma of grief. And she no longer could, because reality was literally breaking through from the inside of the fantasy, not from the outside.
Umar, you sparked a really interesting thought. I gotta ask you a question.
Go for it.
With this show, what was the last era they ended on before the final episode? Was it the 90s?
No, they were in the 2000s because they were doing mockumentaries, like Modern Family style.
Modern Family. Okay. Yeah, they did, didn't they? Because you know what could have been interesting? And I just saw this the other day. So you said, well, it felt like a totally different show. And I was going to laugh a little bit in the back because I was thinking of like, well, every episode was a different show. But that's not what that's what you meant. But then it made me think of a thought of it. I saw a TikTok of a show recently, and they did come to this, but they didn't have to like make it like a show anymore. But they could have pulled this note. They could have pulled from, here's one example. How I Met Your Mother, when, was it Marshall? When he loses his father and he's mad at he's like mad and expressing it in front of his friends that the last thing that his dad ever left him was this voicemail, and it was a pocket dial. And he was just like exacerbating his feeling of grief. And then at the very end of the voicemail, all of a sudden his dad's voice comes in while he's letting out his grief, and he's just like screaming in front of his friends, and it's his dad's like saying, "Oh, sorry, Marshall, you must got me on a pocket dial here. How's my pocket sound? By the way, I love you." And then he's like, "The last thing my dad ever said to me was I love you," and then like 2 seconds later he's like, also, my hemorrhoids are acting up. Like, if you happen to see my cream, blah, 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 let me know. And he's like, the last thing my dad ever said was, I love you. And they're like, that's what I heard. That's what we all heard. Like, I'll agree to. Right? It's a little comedy. But if they had taken like a note, like what I mean is like you take from a 90s or 2000 or whatever show, take one of the greatest grief moments and you try to use that parody without making a big deal like, oh, it looks just like this show. You just take one of those moments and then you play something like that leading up to the end. Would have been like a little sweet little nod for the people who notice it, and for everybody else you don't notice it at all, because the whole show was stealing from other shows. So it would have been beautiful to recreate something like that.
I honestly, bro, I completely agree. Like, keeping it consistent. The last episode wasn't consistent. It was like, it almost like I said, it felt like it was a different show altogether. And that's kind of what the problem that we're discussing about the third act problem, which kind of actually, okay, what it felt like is like the first 8 episodes were done by one person and the last episode was done by another person.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
Which is kind of like, let's go to our next example. The next example that we bring up is Wonder Woman. And this was actually done by 2 different people. So the first 2, like, we're not talking about Wonder Woman 84. That's not in this conversation. That's Act 1, 2, and 3 problem.
Exactly.
Wonder Woman, I will argue, was DCEU's best film.
Yeah.
Because like Shazam was a good film, but no one really cared about it.
Agreed.
Man of Steel, about BVS. BVS is trash. Man of Steel, let's say, is debatable.
I loved it. You didn't like it. It's divisive, but it's still a fairly solid film in terms of doing exactly what it meant to do.
It's debatable. But Wonder Woman didn't have any debates. Like, if you didn't like it, you didn't like it, fine. But that wasn't like an overarching issue. Everyone was kind of like, "Hey, man, that actually like surprised the hell out of us." And so much so that it gave Gal Gadot her career. It was well written, for the most part. Well acted. That was consistent. And it was empowering for women. It was the first female-led superhero film that, well, let's leave it at that. First female-led superhero film. Like, they even beat Marvel at this point. And then, on top of which, it was done well in a box office success. So, like, hurrah. However, while good, while successful, while critically acclaimed, or critically like approved of, it did have an issue, which was the third act, which, like we've just said, was very different from the rest of the film.
Yep.
So, to describe it, I would say that the first part of the film is very fantastical, like introduction, great origin done, minus the whole like Christianizing Greek mythology. Second act, fish out of water, but at the same time, really good action sequences, really good story development, very good characterizations, and like surprisingly really good romance development, which like superhero films are not known for that, at least modernly anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third act came when it was like, okay, so the god of war is here. Let's go fight him in the air. Oh, I set you up great for that transition. Oh,
I was ready. Yeah. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, I just put out a picture of the guy who plays Ares, God of War. Not the most flattering photo, and just the most forgettable character, ironically, is the villain in this film.
Like, honestly, like, why did he have a mustache? And like, that mustache was there from the beginning of time, apparently. I'm like, so this guy has lived through thousands of years and didn't think, yo, maybe I should grow a beard, or I don't know, let me shave my mustache.
It was the heir That's World War II. Never mind. I was gonna. It was World War One. I don't know if the Germans were heavy on the mustaches at that point. But yeah. I mean, the one thing I really also didn't like about this character is like when he put on his whole full suit. I'm like, nah, I don't believe that's the guy under the suit. I don't. He just everything about him does not scream Ares, God of War, in the way they portrayed it. They portrayed like this whole film is like World War One. Right? Like what happens when you take a superhero and throw them in the world's worst scenario it's ever been in, right? And it's a very human problem. It's a very grounded, giant, tribulation or not. That's not the right word. But anyways, you know what I'm trying to get at here. And it's a just giant thing. And when you pull it into this, bigger than life God of War, it just feels like why did we have this whole film talking about like the human problem to then just have a dude who clearly doesn't look like he's a giant god? Why wasn't he? I would have believed this guy being the God of War if he was far more like Zemo, in that he was not physical. He was a manipulator of war, and he was intelligent. And not by the time he's in this scene, literally when I took this clip, the line he says, she says like, "Oh, I'm not gonna do this," and he's like, "Fine, then I will destroy you." I'm like, who wrote this?
Yeah. So like, okay, my problem with this third act is it had good moments, like the spoiler warning, but the death of Steve, really well done. Her going like next level to God mode. Literally God mode. Well done. Her realizing, hey, her finding mercy in that moment of grief or of rage. Also, well done. Everything around that. What's that?
Yeah.
Yes, she's Wonder Woman. Yes, she's powerful. Yes, she's like on she's not able to beat Superman, but she's on the level that she can actually like stand against Superman for a while.
We know how long. We've seen Justice League.
Well, actually, I think they kind of like underpowered her a little bit. Like she could actually she can make his nose bleed with a punch. That one, he was kind of like, "You're hitting me right now," and it's not really connecting.
Yeah, that was my sarcasm.
Oh, okay. Sorry. But like, so we know that Wonder Woman's a powerhouse. Fine, you want to show her a powerhouse. Her picking up a tank kind of proves that. Her like demolishing a building when she's like taking on humans. We get it. I'm not opposed to the God of War being the ultimate villain, but like I actually like what you were talking about, having him a manipulator. And like he's a God of War because he inspires people to go to combat, as opposed to him being like a devil figure where he's like, I just whisper in their ear, but they're the ones doing it. I'm like, I like the idea of him actually just being around them, and it makes people aggressive. Like his aura literally makes you want to get into a fist fight with someone.
Yeah.
And him, like, it's not about the fact that he thinks like, oh, I need to prove that humans are evil and have them destroy each other. It's like, I get power every time they pick a fight. So the more they beat each other and kill each other, the more powerful I get. And hey, look, World War I. I am on top of the world.
Have my cake and eat it too.
Exactly. And then it's Wonder Woman kind of showing up, and like she's like, okay, so, and if they didn't kill off all the other gods, that would have been better. So like it's sort of like, okay, fine. So the gods aren't doing anything. The Themyscirans aren't going to do anything. Fine. I'll fucking go deal with Ares. And then it's like, okay, so Ares is powerful. And he's literally like every time I punch him or every time like people are killing around him, he's just getting more powerful. So like I got to do something. And the fact that she goes into God mode isn't the thing that does it. It's the fact that like Steve dies. She basically kills everyone around her, but like she doesn't for like the few people who are left over. She shows mercy, and he's just like, no. Like nah. But like it's her in God mode, and I kind of liked how she like found her new power. It would have been nice if she just like they explained what she was the god of. Like, is she the god of love? I'm assuming. Is she the new Aphrodite with the power of Zeus? I guess. That was also not explained at all, which is weird because the rest of the movie they were pretty good at explaining things along the way. Anyway, so why was there a big battle sequence that made no sense? Why is Mustache over here? Well, everything about him, what's going on, including the whole thing that you said. He had this war armor on that he just like made out of nowhere, and like this is cool. He is the one drawing lightning. Why?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't remember lightning ever being an Ares thing unless he was using. I mean, I don't know a lot about Greek mythology, but unless he was using Zeus's light ball, like
well, yeah. So like, fine. If like basically since he killed all the other gods and Zeus died apparently of his wounds fighting him, so I don't know. There's extra power laying around or something. I don't know. But like again, not really discussing it.
Yeah, not at all. And like for instance, I like the things you said that went well in this act. Steve's passing, her showing mercy, and this whole idea of him like he was involved in the war and he was manipulating it to some degree, but they didn't do a good job with that. I'm going to jump in and put down some of my thoughts as to how I want to see this play out a bit more. So one, I would, this is what I would want to do. Okay. I would want to look at this movie leading up to something tied to an historical event. I don't know World War One well, so don't try to like quote correct me where I need to be corrected. But generally every war has some pivotal event that changes the tide near the end, right? And so what I would want to do is look at what was one of the most pivotal events or connections to the most pivotal event that happened in the war that turned the tide, and try to create something of an impossible scenario for Wonder Woman to have to solve with mercy, because I like this idea of that she had to give mercy to humanity, that she played a hand in something that was a backbone to that event, right? So you don't rewrite real events, because I don't like that when you're like, here's this real event and the superheroes were there. That's why, like, it just feels cheap. But if there was something where she affected something and her what she did for humanity, she had an impossible moment where she had to decide in her own like humanity to do the right thing versus doing the rage thing like she had done. But the decision she makes at the end of it kind of ends with like maybe Ares making some statement to her, not in this battle but in some other form of defeat, where he's like, how can you trust this to the humans or whatever? And she's like, I'm going to have faith in them or something to that effect. And she changes the tide, and something that Ares was going to do that would have changed the tide of the war, or would have changed the final events of the war. And so she does something that, counters that, and then says, I leave it up to basically the humans, and then we get what we get in reality. I just feel like what I want is something that is, again, this impossible scenario, and it's not a battle between the two of them over power, but I don't know. It's more like when Superman has to face Lex Luthor in different ways, and sometimes the solution isn't a fist, right? Like, because Lex Luthor isn't going to fight him at the fist. So, she has to become more of a strategist to beat the god of war, and that's like the real lesson for her, and also the humanity and mercy, and have that also all play off of the events of Steve dying. So I almost would want to move his death up just a little bit earlier, so not at the climax, but a little bit before it, so that when you get to that moment where she makes that realization, there is her feelings coming into it. It's what's also fueling her rage, but at the same time, it's also what makes her change her mind.
So I like that, and it actually gave me some ideas. So like I would say that for me, I would want him to. I want this to be like an argument throughout the series that humanity has abandoned its faith, and this is God's trying to like this is a singular God thinking, I know how to get humanity to start believing in the gods again. Excuse me. And the way is war. I make war happen. That's what I do. I get more powerful. But the more I become powerful, the more people start praying for salvation. They pray to, and also praying for their children, praying that sort of thing. So it's like I am recreating paganism or like devotion to us gods by being who I am. And that's why the other gods are not getting involved, because people have started turning to all forms of religion, and that includes them. And Diana's the one who is like, no, we need to stop this. She goes and tries to stop this. And it's him not trying to like kill her. It's him trying to be like, girl, come on my side. It actually works in your favor. Like you're the daughter of Zeus. That means you're a goddess too. And she reaches godhood. She goes God mode just when Steve dies, just like it happens in the film. She starts like releasing her anger onto humans, and they start fearing her, like God fearing her. And he's like, that's right. This is what I'm talking about. And she finds mercy, and she like, I can't remember who the god of mercy is in Greek mythology, but like let Diana be that. And then it's like kind of him not dying, but like the other gods coming in and actually like agreeing with her and taking him back to Olympus, being like, that's enough now. And his response is to go to Diana and say, you do realize that the humans will destroy us when they stop believing in us altogether. We will die, and you have just done this. Leave it off that way, saying that humanity is going to destroy us, and in a way, that's what it. And she could be like, "Well, if that's what our destiny is, then we need to, but we shouldn't be destroying them to stay alive."
I like this a lot. I like how you took the idea and you improved it. The thing I also like about this is that you can go right to the very beginning of the movie, right to her being a child, and focus a little bit more, a little less time on her from a physical being strong perspective, because it kind of emphasized that a lot, and show the wisdom, because like she's supposed to be wise, right? And I would like to see a little bit more about her from her studying kind of perspective, so that when we have this trail, because I like the idea of like when she goes into that second act, she doesn't know it's Ares, but she sees the problem that is being created in terms of like what's happening with humanity and what the war is doing, and she has her own philosophy of what this war is doing to humanity. So she goes in to try and fix it based off of her philosophy, and as the events unfold, her philosophy to herself is being questioned, and her doubts. And by the time we get to the point in which you're talking about, it's her philosophy maybe has changed a little bit, but reaffirms most of it, right? Because any good thing should be that it should evolve, right?
Yeah.
And getting to that point of like maybe, because I like if the idea in the beginning, she actually was trying to preserve the gods a bit, and by the end, that's the thing that changes. She's like, if it's our fate, then like so be it. Right. I like that thread. And that means I'm trying to remember what movie it is, but I feel like you can have a moment like in Batman Begins where it's like, Bruce, why did we fall? So we can learn to get back up. Right. And you can have like a phrase that gets dropped early in her wisdom as a child that comes all the way as a through line to that decision that she makes. I just think that'd be really great, because it's not only was it about women being strong that was empowering, it was about women being wise and intelligent and becoming better strategists in all those aspects. By the time, that's all the things that Wonder Woman stood for, besides being, strong and beautiful.
Yeah. And like, honestly, what I'm starting to like going back to what I said before, this film felt like the third act felt like it was a completely different film. It was because Zack Snyder was kind of the one inspiring the final act. Now,
Oh, that's not surprising at all by the look of this picture.
no, no.
So
And I'll give him this. Like, he is consistent. I mean, like, he has a vision of what he wanted the DCEU to be. It wasn't like the best idea, but like, we get it. But like, why do you have to mess up with what they had going on?
yeah, I mean, even if we don't get what we would, no, we can't get what we want. I still would have rather seen where it was going.
Yeah, because it was going in this trajectory, and it kind of went, or whatever. It just went into a different direction very abruptly and very quickly, and like it kept some of its elements, but like, I mean, for crying out loud, once Ares died, the Germans started hugging the Allies.
Oh yeah, see, that's where you make stuff cheap. That's where you make stuff cheap. I'm like you could say that some of the animosity, not animosity, but like some
No,
of
animosity is fun. Animosity is completely.
I would say you could see, even though this feels weaker than what we were saying for ideas, but like at best you could say that like maybe the leaders their motives adjusted because their motives were fueled by Ares. That feels like that lands better in cartoon than it does in live action. And I honestly feel like you would have to try to tie it back to like, and this specific event, this is why they behind the scenes changed their mind, if that actually happened in reality. But again, yeah, it's gonna land better on on Justice League Unlimited than it's gonna land here. So
yeah. So all right. So we're starting to notice a trend here, but let's move on to our third example, which is Day Shift. Now, I will say personally, I barely enjoyed this film. It was a fun action film, but like, it was funny at times, but like, predominantly I was like, cool. But even for me, the third act kind of went down a rather trope. Like, let's just say this was like a dumb action film. So clearly there are tropes in that. However, they then went, okay, those tropes? We're going to double down on that.
Mm-hmm.
Cliches? We're going to start tripling that. Like, the third act is going to be all tropes and cliches, and you're going to know exactly how this goes down. And it does. The only thing surprising was how quickly they killed the main villain.
I mean, I got so many feelings about this film, man.
Please, brother. So speak your piece.
So things I love about this film, okay? First act, open up, you're learning about how hunting vampires are real and people hunt them to make currency. It's this whole underground system. Fantastic. Great. I love it. You're setting up world building. The choreography, the fight scenes, fantastic work. This is out here almost at the same caliber as the Chris Hemsworth show that he did.
Extraction?
Extraction. Yeah, not quite the same level, like, because it's not as much action, but fantastic. Love it. Second act, we're taking him down. We're realizing, we took out some big bads, family members. Not a good thing. Now they're gonna get hunted down. Okay. The thing that really pissed me off in this third act, so everything about this was like grounded. They were fighting in houses. They were fighting in like, dark places. It's all like just in the city, right? All fighting in the city. And suddenly by the third act, we're like going down in an abandoned like mall to find our way into like an Aztec tomb. And I'm like, what? Why are we here? Because just before this, we have a scene in a house where this big bad here in the center, she is she's captured like their family, and she's like got them all by the neck. They're about to die, and you're like, oh man, how are they gonna get out of this? And then she leaves them to go to this Aztec tomb, and I'm like, why? Like, you were right there. You should have killed them there. Or what I felt like we should have had happen was like something interrupted it, but everything should have happened there, because once you got to this Aztec tomb, it started feeling like Blade. and like
Yeah.
and not the good parts of Blade, and it just like it cheapened the battle. It didn't feel believable. It was very Blade like. I was like, it was like they're paying homage to like the set design.
But badly.
Yeah, whereas like we need to stay grounded like this, where we're just fighting dope choreography directly in spaces like this. But before I jump in and say what I think the final act should have been, Umar, what are your thoughts?
I honestly felt like it was building up a world, and then it just stopped building the world, and then just started doing a different sort of like action sequence. Or yeah, we're going to bring up the Aztecs. Why? Yes, we're going to do Mayans. Why? Like they were alluding to a bigger bad. Never showed up again. So clearly part of a franchise. They talked about 5 different types of vampires. Then never brought it up again. What the F?
Yeah, 100%. What would you like to see happen in this third act, Umar?
To be honest, I would have preferred, like, yes, it's a focused on I'm going to try to kill the family. Fine. He's then trying to get his family out. So don't write yourself in the corner that, like, that, like, or have it made that, like, Dave Franco's character, like, don't turn him into a vampire. Have him just die trying to saving the family. Like, he's the distraction. They all get out. He dies. And his last act is by, like, shitting his pants as he dies. And they're like, seriously? And, like, it's like, okay, well, I saved the day. I also shit my pants, so it's not glamorous. But like Jamie Foxx would be like, yeah, I'm not going to tell anyone that happened. So it's kind of like he has respect for the guy who saved his family's life, and he's like, I'm going to brag about him, and only I will know that he was he was scared shitless, literally. So like that's how I would have gone out. But like it's like no, we're going to also have this. What I don't even remember why they were in that place in the begin with.
Yeah, like I just don't. When she left, I was just like, why did they leave? Like they were. It was just like, oh, this isn't my master plan. So I hope can you come see me at 8 o'clock down the street at the old Aztec building under the mall?
It turned into a Saturday morning cartoon. I'm like, well, you didn't need to go there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let me throw you how I think this should have ended. Okay, one should have fought in that house. Now,
yes.
I like your idea. It's interesting. However, I would have kept James Franco alive because I like this movie and I want to keep the universe going, and we need him in the second film. We need him to play off of Jamie Foxx. It won't be the same without him unless you can find somebody of equal caliber. But I think it'll feel cheap. I feel like you're
replacing.
Replacing it. It won't land the same. So you keep him alive, and at first in this scene he's gonna be sloppily no help. But as it progresses, he's going to like learn a bit about his powers, and he's going to become more helpful. And the other reason I want to keep him alive because it expands on the world building. We didn't get much on those 5 vampire types, but his existence, I think, adds to the mystique, and they should have obviously explained a bit more. But here's what I think should happen. I think that they should have set something up earlier in the film that either made the Russian brothers or Snoop Dogg or both, for whatever reason, have a reason. I can't remember which one of them were at the house at the given time. I don't know if any of them were there, I can't remember, but whoever wasn't there of the guys that were already introduced have a reason that made them come back to the house in that scene and interrupt the moment in which all of a sudden they're going to die. So that way a battle can ensue. And I want just a big brawly battle. Their house is destroyed in the process. But I want to have high stakes. Maybe one of the Russian brothers doesn't make it, or something bad happens to him, or Snoop Dogg's character dies, because I don't really need him for the universe going forward. So maybe keep the Russian brothers, have one of them get really injured, have Snoop Dogg's character maybe die, unless him and Snoop are homies, so fine, keep him alive, and so you have the battle ensue and fall out and destroy the house. And in the process, something I would like to have happen is you have a person who isn't supposed to see what happens with vampires find out that they exist, just like a regular person. And what you don't make it like a big deal, like, oh, boom, it's live on Facebook kind of a thing. You make
Right.
something where it creates the same thing we have, like where we have UFO hunters and people don't believe them. So you have like, oh, vampires are real, and it's like, nah, this person is crazy, right? But then there's like rumors spreading around. So what you're doing is I'm not saying you do all that in this film, but you're setting it up so that in the second film, one of the underlying threads is that people are starting to believe if vampires are real or not, and that can play into your storyline for the second one. But I just want like their house to be destroyed. I want the fight to break out in the neighborhood in some kind of way, and I want it just to be like this big action that just happens in that house and just kind of ends there with them, barely getting out of it. Maybe somebody having to hold someone to daylight just to like survive, right? Maybe that's the thing where someone sees them holding the daylight the very last second. The person dies in daylight. You're like, yes, the big bad dies, and somebody uses like across the way in a window, like just like staring at like this person evaporating into the sun. You're just like, what kind of a thing? Yeah, that's how I want it to be. I just wanted to stay grounded and just to be a fun finishing brawl.
Yeah, because like honestly, this film, like we know that they're playing fast and loose with the rules. Fine. We know that this movie is about cliches. Fine. You don't have to go so hard down that road. Like it's fine to make fun of the film, make fun of yourself, but like this was like taking like the piss out of yourself while also at the same time just not caring about anything that came before. I like the idea of keeping it grounded. If you're going to go big, you don't have to go big in the third act randomly. Like Blade, yeah, it did that, but at the same time, like this is back in the 90s. It was like setting up a lot of trope. It helped set up a lot of tropes, but also they were actually talking about this. Like this was like it actually tied in to why they were there. I don't even remember why the kid and the mom went down to the Mayan place. No idea. Also, like in Blade, they kind of like were like taught, like they showed you it, they like explained it, and it's like that's his master plan. Fine, he kept his master plan. I mean, keeping the girl alive was, I mean, they were trying to find reasons to keep her alive, but this was just weird in the fact that yeah, let's have the wife and kid down there. Why? Oh, we're gonna kill them. Wouldn't you have done that earlier? Didn't you want to hurt him longer? It's like, oh, but I want him to suffer. It's like, but you left him to be killed while you took the family away.
Yep.
So it just progressively became more nonsensical to make action sequences happen and to say certain jokes. That's what it felt like. And I'm like, okay, well, this no longer is tying together. This is just a shit show of cliches. And okay, but like that doesn't mean you're a good film to watch again. So like I will admit I may not have been the target audience, but at least like I was enjoying the first. I was like at least at pace with the first two acts. The third act just went completely crazy, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? So that's why I personally felt that like. I think the main thing we're devising is keep things consistent. Like with day shift, fine. It needed an ending battle sequence because like what other point is there for an action film? But with Wonder Woman and with WandaVision, that's debatable. Like you could do with Wonder Woman, it wouldn't be out of the realm of it, but like at least do it in the same veins as you've been doing the other action sequences, where it's like there was a reason why all the action sequences were happening. This one was kind of like the God of War came out of nowhere, just decided to say a whole bunch of stuff, and then like is going to go freak out. But yeah, like I just that's just my problem with the third act problem for these big budgeted superhero films. They're lacking in any kind of consistency with what we've seen before. Do you have anything to say? Because I feel that's a pretty good reason for me to go on my last final tirade.
Go right ahead.
All right, so my last topic is a little bit different, where it's less of a third act problem and more about like a third movie problem, but also has to do with like a franchise issue. So I will say, aside from the lack of consistency, the root cause is that studios are getting involved, or no, studios are getting involved. WandaVision, very much you could say the studios wanted to like do bigger, better things, and they wanted to set up something else, studio involvement. In the case of Wonder Woman, I mean, Zack Snyder was like big with the studios, but at the same time, he was like, hey, like, let's change this up and like make like a big budget fight sequences. This is what worked in my other films. Here, do that. With Day Shift, it's kind of like, I don't know if that's a studio problem. That sounds just like it's someone's problem. But let's just say the studios are a problem with the third act issue. I can't think of a better example of studios getting in the way of the progress than with Lucasfilms under Kathleen Kennedy. Now, I don't mean to say that women shouldn't be in positions of power making decisions, but Kathleen Kennedy has been causing trouble, and The Rise of Skywalker kinda is a really good exemplified. Well, actually, the whole sequel trilogy is kind of a really good point in that favor.
I mean, if you want to call third act of a 9-film, I don't know what we call that, not trilogy, sequel, franchise. Nine
franchise,
film, yeah. The last 3 have not been the greatest.
Yeah, like they are all over the place. I'm not saying that The Rise of Skywalker was completely trash. There were some cool elements in there. I personally like The Last Jedi, but that also had some problems too. And The Force Awakens was kind of a rehash of New Hope. You can pick things apart. You can like things all you can. However, I think what is undeniable about the final 3 films of the Skywalker saga works. Is that it wasn't really planned out.
No, not at all. No.
And I would say that falls under Kathleen Kennedy's problem, because she has a tendency of getting involved without realizing what to do. Like, she was the one who was saying, guys, you're really complaining a lot about Star Wars, but it's not like we have like source material to follow under. I'm like, you have about 30 years worth of books and also several video games that people love, and you're gonna just ignore. You were the one who discontinued it, and now you're saying you don't have source material. She's also okay, we're all loving Mandalorian. You and I, I am really enjoying Andor. This is all under like a lot of really good decisions lately from Dave Filoni and also Jon Favreau, who have kind of like taken over creative control of like Lucasfilms in terms of Star Wars stuff. It turns out recently was reported that Kathleen Kennedy was getting so involved with their properties of late and like pissing them off that Jon Favreau has threatened to quit Lucasfilms because he couldn't take her involvement. And I'm hoping that has caused her to back off. You gotta say something, man?
I'm just wondering if her days are numbered.
Kathleen, stop.
Yeah. I mean, the best things that we've had is Favreau and Filoni, right? And
before that, like, you can argue about Lucas. I would say like the first 3 films.
You gotta give respect to the man who created it. Without the creator, you had nothing. I mean, even though the prequels are not the strongest films,
I would say that they're the worst films.
The thing is,
they're consistent.
I like them more, and I don't like them a lot. But what I mean is that there's at least, how to put it, the amount of conversation that has come out of those first 3 films in terms of, well, what did this really mean? Or did this really, like, we didn't unfortunately, it wasn't shown in the film, but it was trying to set up the idea that showing
Right.
that the what is it, the Jedi, were hubris in their way, or maybe Jar Jar Binks was actually this big master mind. There's so many good conversations that have come out of it
Yeah.
because there were threads of things, but he didn't know how to execute these ideas.
Yeah.
With this latter one, I'm not going to be pulling no threads.
There
'Cause
was nothing.
the ideas kept changing, right? You set up an idea, you
Yeah.
shifted, and you shifted again. And so I don't know where, like, Palpatine was the dumbest thing ever. Like, that could have been a really cool idea if it was really planned out. Because, like, well, that would have been crazy, but it was so dumb because it was shoehorned in the third act of the 3 films.
The entire third film, like The Rise of Skywalker, was essentially a retcon of everything that happened in the previous film.
Yeah, so it was like, what was the point in me watching 2 films for you to just like, nah, we didn't make that last film. This film comes right off the first film, but yet you need to also watch the second film because otherwise you would have no idea how we got here.
Yeah. And like, okay, the one thing I will say, actually no, I'll say 2 things. The prequel trilogy was consistent. Now, it was consistently bad, but like it was consistent in its execution across the board. I mean, the third film arguably was probably the best, but still. The second thing I'll say for it is it had a story arc. It wasn't executed well, but it was there, like it was consistent. The third, so the sequel trilogy had like no story arc. Because it was being like you said, hatchet job. And since they plan to do, like, if you're going to write a story where you're going to figure it out as you go along, that's fine. But when you give each director like creative control and freedom to do whatever they want, what did you think was going to happen to the story? Like, if you didn't have a plan? It's like, oh, okay, so this is what happened in the first film. Do whatever you want. Cool. I'm going to undo everything that happened. Or I'm going to subvert expectations. Do your job. Oh, why did you subvert expectations? Kathleen, I told you I was. It's like, yeah, but you like subverted too much. It's like, okay, we're going to get someone else to do the last film. Undo everything he did. Like, how much of the story do you want me to spend on that? All of it, as much as you can. Get Palpatine to fix it. It's like, okay. Now Favreau and Filoni are literally saving Star Wars. And she's got notes?
In the corporate world, I sometimes come across this phenomenon in which people feel like they need to justify their presence by having an opinion in everything versus just allowing individuals to just do what they got to do. And yeah, I mean, like in this scenario, it feels like somebody just has to get involved versus, first of all, you can't do a trilogy and just figure it out as you go along. You need to have an overarching plan because it is a trilogy requires a 3-act story spread across 3 different films, fundamentally. And if you're going to build off
the previous one in a similar trajectory of where it was heading, where it ended, you can go as you go along. It's going to be difficult, but you definitely need a lot more people involved than just one dude.
Yeah, I agree, but at the same time with Star Wars, there's so much lore, there's so much expectation. You need a somewhat plan, and maybe your plan is high level notes at the beginning, and you will allow yourself to adjust as you do it, and then go through the process and realize, oh, there's new opportunities, new things, new story we could do. Great, expand on that. Have a general idea where you're going to end it, and then change that ending as you progress. Not have no idea for an ending at all. Yeah, it's just like it, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating as all hell to just like hear that, like, you know, Favreau wants to step away. You know, if she doesn't get her hands out of it, because like that's just that's just like, well, Star Wars is done. like good luck of the future on this one. Like we need a Bob Iger to step back into this situation and be like, Bob Iger just look at this and be like, this ain't this. Look, let the creators create. These creators have done the best work, the most profitable work, the most loved work. The thing that has brought, they have done the thing that has made everybody love Star Wars and have a brand new marketable character. Stop trying to shoehorn that character into place that doesn't make sense. You know, I heard that she adjusted that I can't think of the real name, but Baby Yoda was supposed to stay with Luke and continue his training, and she is the one who made the whole Mandalorian to come into that show to pull him out. Like that wasn't the original plan for that show. I don't think Yoda was Baby Yoda and Mandalorian were supposed to be involved at all. Which yes, it was the best part of the show.
It was the best. It was yeah.
But I heard that there was so much conflict that the Book of Boba, right? Yeah,
that would probably explain why Favreau wanted to step away, because Mandalorian's his baby.
Yeah, and on top of that, though, I think the Book of Boba was supposed to be a slightly different story. Because what I heard is that she kept meddling with it so badly that at the end, it had got so messed up that she had to bring Favreau in to try and fix it. And at that point, it was so far gone. And on top of that, when I don't know if he brought the Mandalorian in, I can't remember if he said he brought the Mandalorian or she brought the Mandalorian in, but yeah, she meddled with the plan of how the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda was in there. So it's like she just screwed that whole show, and like that could have been a better show.
Yeah, and also it would be hilarious if the 2 episodes with the Mandalorian, or like 1 episode or 2 episodes, whatever it was, it'd be hilarious if that was the original 2 episodes of season 3.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You actually, here's one that you'll love that I also heard that she forced into here. So I totally get like trying to have more Baby Yoda in the universe because it's going to make you more money and sells you toys. Just do it respectively. But one thing we absolutely did not need, that was a deal that she worked out, that she had to have in that actually really upset Favreau. Really upset him because it did not work. And we all agree, was the Vespas. She forced it in. It was not in the plan. It was because they're literally a deal, I guess, with the Vespa company. And he's
like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now?
They're too abnormal. They don't fit in the universe." And we all saw it. I hated it because it was like, they don't look like
that.
Everything.
Was literally one of the biggest complaints I heard consistently about the Book of Boba, is that these idiots are on Vespas, are like a biker gang.
Yeah,
that was her.
That's what happens when you can strike up a good deal that makes some advertising done. Product placement.
Kathleen.
There you go, Umar.
Oh,
I'm stressing out live.
I was gonna say like she's reaching the level of stupidity of like the guy who tried to fire Kevin Feige. If Iger didn't like step in and be like, no, we're not gonna get rid of this guy. Like that's like, I was gonna say she's at that level stupid. No, she passed that. Vespas, she passed that.
Vespas. Yeah, I hated those things.
Everyone hated those things. They were dumb as fuck.
You know, like going back to the prequels, the thing that I was going to say earlier when you were talking about it is like, hey, at least it brought us pod racing. That was Lucas just geeking out on what he could do technologically.
We also got lightsaber fights.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was stuff that like, yeah, the story didn't fully, have a full through.
We may have lost Darcy. His internet might be acting up. There you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just saying we had some dope moments, but yeah, I'll leave it there.
So, to wrap up, so it sounds like there are one consistent issue and one suggested course correction. The main issue: studio involvement on what they think that these superhero, sci-fi, fantasy, big budget things are. Maybe studios back off a little bit.
Absolutely.
And maybe the formula to try practicing a little more of is keeping the consistency of the third act with the first two acts with what you're doing.
100%.
WandaVision, Wonder Woman, and even something as Day Shift. All of these are something that, at least amongst us, sounds like it would be better if they kind of just kept consistent with what they were doing before, because that's what we were loving about it.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, that's all that I got to say on this. Any closing remarks, Darce?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't ever bring back those Vespas ever again.
Amen.
All right, sounds good. Well, this has been another edition of the Geeky Bros Podcast. It's your boy Darcy here.
And this is Big Geek Umar, who apparently knows how to say his name properly now. And thank you all for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment in the comment section. And we'll be off next week, but we will be back on the 24th, barring any other changes. But hope that we'll see you guys then on Friday at 6 p.m.
Absolutely.
So so have a good night, everybody. Live long and prosper, y'all.
Peace, y'all.
You press the button this time?